Welcome. So glad you've joined me today. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a recipe that is unique among all the recipes that I know. In that this is something that I have never seen, anything that even looks like it, anywhere but in my Lita's kitchen, my dad's kitchen, and then mine. It is a Mexican pasta that I use in the place of rice. I alternate sometimes between the two. They have a very different flavor, but they serve the same place within the meal. And I've never seen this anywhere in a restaurant or anywhere else where it resembles quite exactly what this is. Sure, it's out there, but I've not seen it. So I'm excited to show you what this looks like and how this tastes. Everybody I've ever shared it with at my table has really, really enjoyed it and found it to be a unique pleasure to enjoy. So let's try making some sopa. So we begin the process of making sopa by taking our vermicelli and dropping it into a microwave-safe bowl. If you have the kind of vermicelli that you have to break up, this would be the time to do that. Otherwise, if this comes nice and broken up already for me, so I can take this, we add just a touch of oil. Any vegetable oil would do. I like to add olive oil myself. And we take that and just mix it around so that it coats each piece of the vermicelli just very lightly in oil. This will help it in the toasting process that we're going to put it through in the microwave. Okay, so we put that in the microwave. We're going to be microwaving that for about 1.5 minutes. You will end up microwaving it for slightly more than that, but I encourage you to start with 1.5 minutes for your microwave just to make sure that you don't burn it, because we've got to get it nicely browned and evenly browned without turning it too dark, because that'll ruin the flavor of the sopa. All right, with that second microwaving, we got a nice even brownness to our toasted vermicelli. This is an important step because it adds a really significant element to the flavoring of this dish. And it's so much easier to do in the microwave than it ever was before that. My Lita had to do all of this on the stove. Took 5 or 10 minutes, a little bit longer, but we can get the same effect these days with a much, much shorter time. So now we're going to take this, set it aside, and get to cutting the vegetables. All right, the next step is for us to cut the onions. We have to cut off the end of the onions. It has the roots on it. I find it easiest to use a large chopping knife for this. It goes a whole lot faster that way. So we simply line them up, cut that off, take that and throw it in the trash can, and then we line up our onions and go to chopping them. With our onions nicely chopped, we're going to take those and drop them directly into the pot where we will be cooking the sopa. So there we are, onions in the pot, ready to go. We can move on to our tomatoes. Now with the tomatoes, you can go with one large garden tomato, or you can go with 2 to 3 of the smaller Roma tomatoes. The more that you add simply adds more of that kind of flavoring to the dish. As you make it more often, you'll get a sense for how various levels of the different ingredients affect the flavoring. But starting with what I've given you will be a good place to begin. So make sure you're using a nice sharp knife. We're simply going to dice the tomatoes. Once again, it's important to make the dicing fairly small so that the flavoring of the vegetables can be evenly distributed through the vermicelli as you create and cook the dish. So there, with our tomatoes nicely diced, we will now take these and once again add them directly to our pot. All right, with our tomatoes and onions in the pot, we can now begin work on the garlic. With the garlic, you want to cut off the ends, then break the hard outer skin, peel that off so that you're left with the meat of the clove of garlic. Cut that clove in half. You're going to lay it flat, nice and tight. And then we're going to go down and chop this very, very small. Garlic is a very strong flavor, so you want to get the pieces nice and small so that they can run throughout the sopa. You can, of course, use jarred, diced, or minced garlic for this process, but chopping it fresh is, of course, always better for the overall flavoring. With all of our vegetables now in the pot, we simply take our vermicelli pasta, we drop it into the pot along with all the vegetables. We're going to mix all of this up, and we'll be adding some water. Water will be added so that it goes just above the level of where our vegetables and pasta are in the pot. So it'll go just barely above that. We'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, with our water added to the pot just above the level where the sopa and the vegetables are sitting, the pasta, we're going to take this, we're going to set it on the stove and add our spices. Alright, so our pot is ready here. We're going to go ahead and turn this on to high heat. And as we wait for that to heat, we add our spices. So we're going to be adding salt. We add menudo mix. And we add a touch of pepper. Mix all of that in. And once we've got the spices mixed through, along with all of the vegetables, then we can simply let that sit and begin to boil. So as you can see, we're at a high boil here. So we're going to drop the temperature of the stove down to about 3/4. It's about 6.5 on my stove, somewhere in that neighborhood. Drop it to where it's in a rolling boil, but it's not bubbling quite so quickly. All right, now as you can see, the water has disappeared and dropped below the level of the vegetables and the pasta. We still have a fair amount of water in there. You see it pooling towards the bottom. But once I get to this stage, I have to start watching it pretty closely in order to keep it from burning. What we're looking for is for that water to get to the point where it's about 1/4 inch from the bottom of the pot, and then we will turn the burner off and allow the sopa to finish cooking as the burner cools. Okay, here we are. The water has dropped far enough. We can just barely see it bubbling down there at the bottom. But if I scrape, there's places where there's no water at all. So this is the point at which I turn off the stove. I stir it a little bit, and then I allow the sopa to just sit, and it will cook itself without burning and finish that water getting out of there. And in just a moment, we will be ready to eat. So there you have it, the one recipe from Mailita's kitchen that I have never seen anywhere else. And it's a one-of-a-kind flavor that I hope you get the chance to enjoy. Thanks for spending time with me today. Take care.